Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
This is my boomstick.
Here's Johnny.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Righteous! Righteous! Yeah!
I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
Good morning, Vietnam!
Houston, we have a problem.
The first rule of Fight Club is you do not talk about Fight Club.
All right. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Those Film Nerds podcast. I, as always, am named Willspalding, and joined today by my co-host Sam Dierberger. Sam, what's happening?
Nothing much. How are you, Will?
I'm good. How's college life going?
College life is becoming interesting. Well, no, the opposite of interesting. It's becoming routine, which is what you want, I suppose, right?
I suppose, yeah. It's yeah, you got to develop a routine. I know what you're saying. Sure.
Independence, everyone.
Well, I'm sure everyone wants to hear about our college lives, but that's on our spin-off podcast, which gets way more listens. So go check that out. Those college nerds. That's what it's called.
I don't know about that.
But no. We're here to talk about movies as always. But Sam, what is said movie?
Today we're talking about The Devil All the Time.
How and why people from 2 points on a map without even a straight line between them can be connected is at the heart of our story in Dawkins' Death.
You ever think about how we ended up orphans living in the same house?
I know what my daddy did.
Oh, The Devil All the Time. The highly anticipated The Devil All the Time. We've been talking about it for months.
I literally hadn't heard about it until like last week when we were literally recording last week's episode. Like in the middle of the episode, I'm like, oh, this looks interesting.
Yeah, I mean, we all know we're all fans of that.
Right. I mean,
but yeah, we'll be talking The Devil All the Time in just a short while. But for now, I'm going to put you on the spot here, Sam. I want to do the 2 actors today. So think of a couple actors, and we might talk some industry news depending on what we got for time. But do you have any actors for me right now, Sam? It looks like you're surfing hard right now.
Okay. I'm just spitballing here, but let's do a guy named Gabriel Byrne. And I'd like you to pair him with let's say
Gabriel Byrne. Okay.
Tom Holland.
Okay. So Tom Holland is relevant to today's episode.
Yes,
and
of course.
What's interesting is because this movie we're going to talk about, The Devil All the Time, is such an ensemble cast that I have a lot of different ways to go with this one.
Oh, and are you actually going to go through The Devil All the Time?
Should I?
Because I appreciate that because Tom Holland is Spider-Man. Oh yeah, that's right. We made a rule where we banned MCU from these
we banned
conversations.
Okay, all right. That's fair. I'll stick by that. And Gabriel Byrne, of course, is a great character actor.
Yes.
Let's see here. I will go. I think I want to go to Tom Holland. So I'll start with Gabriel Byrne, and I'll start with him in Hereditary.
Okay.
Of course, 2018's and Ari Aster's Hereditary with also Toni Collette.
Yes, of course. Talked about her last week.
We did talk about her last week. It's again relevant. Toni Collette in, I will say, the way back.
Okay.
With Sam Rockwell.
Sure.
You know, if we had MCU, I'd already have it. But we won't.
Yeah, I know. The MCU is just cheater's game.
I know. They get everyone. Sam Rockwell in 3 Billboards.
Okay.
3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. With Mr. Harrelson.
Okay.
I will then go Woody Harrelson. In, let's see. Because Woody's been in a few movies here and there. I guess I could go Woody Harrelson in Star Wars: A Solo Story with Alden Ehrenreich.
Ooh.
How many am I at right now?
I think you're at 5.
Okay. I'll then go Alden Ehrenreich and Hail Caesar.
Oh, yes, the go-to.
And then, Ralph Fiennes. Ralph Fiennes and with Alden Ehrenreich in Hail Caesar with Ralph Fiennes. Ralph Fiennes in the Grand Budapest Hotel with Miss Saoirse Ronan. Saoirse Ronan in How I Live Now with Tom Holland. Is that 8? That might be 8.
That's like 8, yeah.
Crap.
But, you know, that's not bad for avoiding the MCU.
I will. Okay, I'm gonna.
I mean, Tom Holland has virtually no credits outside of Spider-Man, so.
I'm gonna. Yeah. I can take out Harrelson, I suppose. I can go from. Or I can. Yeah, I can take out Woody. I can go from. Sam Rockwell to instead Woody Harrelson to Frances McDormand in 3 Billboards because Frances McDormand is also in Hail Caesar.
Right.
With Alden Ehrenreich and go back okay. And then Frances McDormand and Hail Caesar with Ralph Fiennes with Saoirse Ronan in the Grand Budapest Hotel, and then Saoirse Ronan in How I Live Now with Tom Holland. I might have cheated there. I did go 8 the first time. I could have done better.
That's fair. But that's pretty good. Was it a failure? Yes, it was a failure.
It was
pretty good.
It was a failure. Was I successful? No.
So moving on from that, do we have any significant film news to talk about today?
You know, I felt like for a while there we were just getting barraged with industry news. But over the past few days or weeks, I haven't felt like I've heard that much. I know, you know, Tenet is the #1 movie in the world right now, which is not surprising because there are no movies out really.
There are no other movies in the world right now.
But it's still, Tenet is not succeeding. Maybe we should talk about that.
Yeah, it is not succeeding at all.
Tenet needed to make like stupid amount of, like nearly $1 billion to break even.
Right.
after advertising was factored in and the whole budget, because advertising of Tenet was absurdly big because they advertised it for 9 months, or more than
right.
Now, Sam, I want to ask you, do you think Tenet is failing at the box office because of COVID-19? Or do you think Tenet is failing at the box office because of what it is? Because we know Christopher Nolan brings people to the movies. We've seen this with the Dark Knight trilogy, Inception, Interstellar, even a little bit of Dunkirk, even though that's more of an artsy movie. But he puts butts in seats, and he isn't this time.
Right. Well, look, here's what I think initially it was because of COVID-19. I think that people weren't sure about going to the cinema, especially in these big markets, these big urban markets. But then I think, well, first of all, I mean, we recorded a podcast where our opinion on Tenet was, I mean, collectively at the very best lukewarm, and I would imagine that swayed our millions and millions of listeners.
Yeah, they didn't flock to theaters.
They were like, they were set on seeing it, and then we gave the review, and they heard us, and they were like, "Oh, okay, forget about it." So we have a pretty like major responsibility for that. But
we're in the cultural zeitgeist for sure.
We're part of it. Us,
yeah.
Rotten Tomatoes, Metacritic, whatever. So there's that. I think it does have to do with critical reviews. In all seriousness, I think there's a lot of people who had heard it was confusing, and that doesn't do well for people if they haven't seen the movie yet.
Agreed.
Right?
For sure.
Because I would imagine when Inception came out, people went to see it because they heard it was good.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting because.
And then the second part of that statement was it. Go ahead.
Yeah. What you said right there, that people flocked to go see Inception because it was good. I think that's interesting because it's not that Tenet has necessarily received super bad reviews. I mean, it's fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. I think its Metacritic score is relatively low from most Nolan movies, but I think you said it on the head, is that it's confusing, and that most people, I mean, I don't understand it, so I don't. Do you understand Tenet super well?
I'm about 80-90%.
Okay. So
but
the point is, it's confusing. Most people won't understand it. I think if I saw it 5 times, I wouldn't get it. So I think that doesn't help, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people just like to be confused.
Plus all these stories, I mean, Kenneth Branagh doesn't understand it. John David Washington, Robert Pattinson doesn't understand it completely. That, I don't know. I mean, for me, that's like a challenge. Like for us who watch a lot of movies, that's a challenge. And we're like, yes, I want to go see it. I want to see if I can figure it out. But for the average moviegoer who's already maybe stressed about COVID-19 and not looking to get out much, I don't know if that's an appealing pitch, right?
Agreed. I don't think it's appealing at all. Now, if this had come out without COVID-19, I agree with you. I think its box office numbers would be higher for no other reason than most theaters right now aren't able to fill their seating, for one. So
yeah,
it's tougher to, even for the people that want to go see it, can't.
Right.
Now, I also want to ask you, where does this leave the movie industry for the next few months? Because I know Tenet was like kind of like everyone, or the studio's almost saying a test run. Like let's try to see if this theater thing even works right now. Like, do people even want to go see it?
Right.
And this tells me it almost didn't work. So do you think more movies are going to delay?
I think Tenet is a special exception because it is not a conventional action movie. It's not a conventional blockbuster.
Nope, you're right. It is not.
I think the studios who, the Marvels, the DC Comics, they, Warner Brothers, they they have Wonder Woman 1984. What is the next Marvel?
Black Widow.
Black Widow. There it is. I think these projects particularly have no choice but to release it in the theaters, to at least attempt to recoup their losses. Because I mean, if you make it available like for a rental for $30, I mean, we'll see how this Milan thing pans out, but I don't know if you can make your money back on a home release, especially these films with these massive budgets. So I think they're forced to, and I think we'll see people go out to see Wonder Woman and Black Widow just because it's familiar, and it's not a head scratcher like Tenet is. It's a conventional action movie, right? But I think some of these smaller releases with smaller budgets, they're definitely going to be leaning towards streaming release, especially if they're able to recoup their losses doing that method.
Well, I do know that roughly 5 million people bought Mulan on Disney Plus when it was released until now.
Okay.
For $30, so that's $150 million. The movie cost $200 million to make, plus about $200 million to advertise. So, I mean, Disney's getting hosed on that, which I don't think anyone really thought that wasn't going to happen. I think everyone thought they weren't going to make their money back, which tells me that you're right again, that these big movies need to release in theaters, otherwise they won't make any money. It's just a question of when, because I don't think it's now, which is unfortunate to say.
Yeah, I mean, but you can only. I mean, I know. I mean, we've talked about Disney and how they have all the money in the world, but ultimately, it's like this is a massive stream of revenue for Disney and studios like Disney. They can't just go on forever holding back their movies in the archives.
Yeah,
hoping that someday it'll be safe to release. You have to give credit to Warner Brothers to take a gamble on Tenet. And it's not like. I mean, I'm not particularly surprised that Tenet didn't do well, but
I'm not either. I don't think anyone should be either.
I don't think so either. Like anyone who thought this was going to be a triumphant return to the theaters, I don't know.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
Well, we'll have to see where this leads us, because there isn't really any big blockbusters to come, or not in the near future.
Yeah.
So it'll be tough because Tenet was that. So it'll be tough to gauge how the audience goes back to the theaters because there isn't anything to go back to, essentially. I mean, I'm looking at the release calendar right now, and it's pretty rough. Not great.
Yeah, so, but on a related note, John David Washington says that he hopes to make a Tenet sequel.
Oh, boy. What do you think about that?
First of all, if this was any other director, and with the way Tenet is performing at the box office, the answer would be an immediate no.
Absolutely.
Because it's Nolan, he can get away with it, I suppose. But
I don't think of Nolan as a sequel guy. I understand that he's made the Dark Knight trilogy, which are obviously sequels, The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises, but I don't see him doing this. I think he wanted to get away from Batman and I think that kind of means he wanted to get away from like all sorts of sequels. I don't think he does a Tenet 2 or
Right.
whatever that means.
Yeah.
He's just gonna spell Tenet backwards and then make that movie.
What if that's totally something he would do though. He would literally do that.
In 4 years when Tenet comes out, we're gonna be like, wasn't this like made 4 years ago? And no one's gonna be like, no, it's a different thing.
And be like, no,
This is Tenet.
it's spelled backwards.
4 years ago I made Tenet.
It's Tenet, not Tenet.
Yeah. we're all gonna be confused, but no one will know what he's doing. But do you have anything else you want to talk about movie news wise?
I don't think so. That's about it.
Well, what do you say? Should we get into some the devil all the time talk?
Let's get into some devil all the time.
Some people just need to be buried.
What I'm about to do, I do because I have to. Not because I want to.
The devil all the time.
The devil all the time.
First
of all,
yeah,
I think okay, first point of discussion. What is that title? Like, what does that even mean?
It's a very bad title. It's awfully misleading too.
Yeah.
It's not a great title. But this is an interesting movie for sure. And I think well, I shouldn't say that. I don't want to say. I was going to say I think we both liked it, but we'll talk about that more. I just want to get your spoiler. That's why I didn't finish my sentence. I want to get your spoiler-free, quick review about The Devil All the Time. What'd you like? What did you dislike? General thoughts.
The Devil All the Time is kind of a misuse or an underuse of resources, I would say. It has a phenomenal cast. Even some of the people I had never heard of, particularly, what is her name? Discount Margot Robbie is how I will label her from now on, because she was a discount Margot Robbie.
Which character?
What's her name? The Jason Clarke's wife.
And now we're just both going to be saying for the next 15 minutes.
Riley.
Her name is
Riley
Keough.
Keough.
Sandy.
She was fantastic.
Yeah, agreed.
I think the cast on the whole is quite good, quite strong. I just think that plot wise,
yeah, for sure.
The in the plot just kind of spontaneously happen. It really lends itself to being a movie that you can derive a lot of meaning from, when in reality you can't, just because all of the events are pretty contrived.
Mm-hmm.
But they're just so good. And yeah, it was kind of like, it reminded me of a weaker 3 Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri.
Yeah, it definitely had a 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri 5 for sure.
Kind of this small town, Midwest, dark story kind of thing, but it was just kind of weak.
Yeah. Okay.
Felt very circumstantial. What are your initial thoughts?
I finished the movie and said, it looks like someone watched A River Runs Through It and 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, and then was like, I got an idea.
Yeah, exactly.
But then didn't really go further on that idea. It seemed like the writer and director both were like, well, what if we did this? And what if we did this? And then no one was like, well, maybe not do that. Because every idea that was put on the table was put into this movie. Every idea. I don't think there was a single no said on that set. Which is fine because that means there's utmost creativity involved. It's just that there was a lot being thrown at us, and I don't know if all of it mattered or if all of it was relevant.
But let me propose this. Let me mention this.
Yep.
This weekend, shortly after I watched this movie, I was walking through a lovely Barnes & Noble downtown. It was a beautiful Barnes & Noble. And I was walking through a aisle, and out of the corner of my eye, I looked, and I saw The Devil All the Time, the novel. And I'm like, what? And then it had a little sticker on it, like, now a Netflix feature film. And I'm like, this was a novel.
I was unaware of that.
I had no idea. And I almost want to read it just because I want to know how you can sustain a novel on this kind of source material.
Yeah. That's definitely interesting. I guess that's a little rewarding in the fact that I hope they stuck. I don't know how they could not have stayed true to the source material because everything was in this movie. I think that's the part that bugs me most about it is we have like 5 main characters, and I just kept like every time they bounced to one, I'm like, what's going on here? Like, where are we right now? What's the timeline? It felt like we couldn't focus and settle in. But what was being displayed, I thought was good. It's just how it was displayed almost. Yes. Or how much was displayed. Because like you said, the cast is great. The acting's phenomenal. I think it looks good on a production design level. The cinematography is quite good. I mean, you're filming outside too, so it's hard to film nature and not look pretty. But still, it looked good. And you know, I kept saying the parts are much greater than the sum for this movie.
That's a great way to put it.
If you showed me an individual still or an individual scene, I'd say, yeah, that movie's probably really good. And then you show me the whole movie, and I say, okay, I see where you were going.
Yeah, right. I mean, yeah, it's just it's a bizarre little thing. It's a bizarre little movie. It's one of those, like, I think I'll forget about it pretty easily, apart from a scene or two that were pretty impactful, pretty well done. But overall, I'm not going to remember this in about a year.
Agreed.
I would say, you know,
yeah,
not something that jumps out at me. And it's disappointing too, because when we were initially talking about it last weekend, I was pretty excited for it. I thought it had all the rest really great.
Yeah, absolutely. It just needed, I think, a script doctor to come in and tighten the script up, an editor to come in and say, here's what we're cutting. And I think there's a good movie inside of this movie. It's really long too.
Yeah.
It's almost 140 minutes, which I was kind of like, when I turned it on, I was like, holy smokes, should not be this long.
Yeah.
But
we do we need to get into spoilers?
Yeah, let's break it down. This is such a 3-act story too, so let's kind of start from the beginning too. You go.
Okay, we'll start at the beginning. So first of all, we have Willard Russell, who comes back from World War II. He experiences some traumatic events there, specifically he fought in the Pacific Theater. He comes across a soldier who's barely alive. He's been crucified by the Japanese soldiers. And after that, some events transpire once Willard comes home and starts a family, essentially. So what did you make of, I want to get initially, what did you make of Willard's kind of devolution into insanity towards the beginning there?
Yeah, for sure. I think Bill Skarsgård played it well. I think he almost looks the part too. He's kind of an odd looking guy. So I thought he played it well. And I think this is what I was saying, where like the director knew exactly what he was doing, and that specific part is quite good. I thought it worked well. And are you talking like just the initial part, or the entire time when Willard is in them?
Yeah, we can talk entire first act.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was executed quite well. I mean, you can see why this guy is going kind of insane, and why he loses faith, gains it back, loses it again, because God won't help him, or God will help him, and he kind of bounces back and forth between that. So I definitely think that there's good in that first act, held together in large by Bill Skarsgård. But what do you think?
Well, first of all, I thought the image of a crucified dog was very impactful. I think the idea of going so insane to the point of sacrificing your child's dog is just so demented, and just a really effective image. It obviously has some kind of like the story of Abraham, like about to sacrifice your son. So what's the next thing to your son? Well, your son's dog, man's best friend, all this. That's really effective imagery. I think my issue was the insanity wasn't fully explored. He kind of snaps into insanity all of a sudden, particularly when his wife starts dying of cancer. But that scene where he's forcing his son to pray loudly, kind of this, idea of howling, for me, like the common metaphor for existentialism, for example, is being lost in the woods, calling out for an answer, and no one gives an answer. So they're in the woods. They're literally in the woods, and they have this little chapel set up, right? So I thought that was all very effective, but I wish we kind of went into his character more, almost, because he was kind of the most interesting character to me, certainly throughout.
Absolutely. Sure. Let's continue on this plot line, because there's so many, and we'll go into each individual one afterwards. What do we think of Tom Holland's whole second act storyline? Let's not get into his third act with his sister and his grandma, and kind of delve into the preacher too. I thought, what'd you think? Tom Holland and his.
Well, we have a lot of. I mean, he is a complex kind of character arc as well.
From his childhood to when we see him last,
yeah, that's complicated right there. It's like, what happened in that time? This kid suffered some serious trauma.
Absolutely.
That's the other thing about this movie, is everyone just dies needlessly.
Oh, for sure. I was saying that. I was like, a third of the way.
By the last death in the movie, I was just laughing, because I was like, are they just gonna kill everyone? Like,
yep.
That is not how you end a movie. Like, you don't get to do that. I mean, you can. It's just not. It's not a good way to tell a story. But anyway, Tom Holland. Yeah, he's complex. He's trying to figure out his path. His father left him. He left this world. I mean, he's trying to figure out where he is in the world. And then he has to protect his kind of adoptive sister who's getting bullied at school. Yeah, I mean, that all worked pretty well for me. It's just like, what does that all mean in terms of the larger context of the story? Not a whole lot. The entire subplot of him protecting her from the bullies didn't really do a whole lot for me. Tom Holland's character is kind of just he's a plot device, more or less, I think.
Yeah.
He doesn't experience too much change.
Which is unfortunate because he is kind of the main character.
Yeah.
So having the main character be essentially a plot device, you're right, it isn't necessarily the best thing for your main character.
Yeah. So then, well, the obvious thing and the thing we wanted to get into was the entire Robert Pattinson performance.
Yeah.
Which, first of all, what a heck of a year for Robert Pattinson.
Yeah, Bob's doing all right.
What a busy schedule that man has.
Last year was the Adam Driver, the year of Adam Driver. This year it's the year of Robert Pattinson, I guess.
That is true. So yeah, what did you think?
Yeah, I mean, we were supposed to dislike his character, and I did dislike his character. So
yeah,
I suppose that that shows that he did a good job. I think even more so than Tom Holland, his character is again a plot device. So there's just two plot devices interacting with each other. Because he's there for one reason. And we're getting into full, complete spoilers right now. So if you haven't seen it and would like to, turn this off and come back to it. But, I mean, he is there literally so Tom Holland can kill him.
Yep.
Which is fine, I guess. It's just that it makes me wonder, why did we have all of that other stuff in there? I suppose he might, Robert Pattinson's character might mean something more metaphorically metaphorically, but I wasn't really willing to think for this movie. I'm looking for more of a thriller with this movie, and I wasn't willing to put forth a lot of thought, I suppose, which is maybe my fault. But
okay. No, that's fair. That's fair. I think that my problem with Robert Pattinson's character was initially the theme switched when the act switched. So initially I thought it was going to be about I mean, both themes are about faith, but initially I thought it was going to be about Willard crying in the wilderness. And it's trying to address the question of, why do humans go to a god for help when they're distressed? Why doesn't God answer if there is one? That sort of thing. That would have been a cool theme to explore.
Yeah.
Instead, they switched into this kind of like boring, kind of overdone theme, which is, religious people get corrupt too. And that's fine, but that's not like done in thousands of movies. People who are supposedly holy are actually horrible people, right? Robert Pattinson is a liar, a manipulator.
He's a bad dude.
He's a bad guy. Sorry, out of context. Robert Pattinson's character, not Robert Pattinson.
Somebody get that sound bite.
Yeah, we don't want to be sued for defamation, but so I thought, you could have gone into a whole lot of stuff, but instead it's just kind of a messy, like, oh, he's a religious figure, so let's throw him in there, and it's like the movie's about like faith and religion, kind of, and then they threw devil in the title because they thought that would be effective.
Yeah,
it's like, no, this movie's about like serial killers and murders, like. It's bizarre. It's a bizarre way to go about it.
Yes. and let's talk about that next. Jason Clarke's character and Riley Keough, however you say it.
Yeah.
This part and the part with Sebastian Stan, the police officer, is where I was like, I get what you're trying to do here. It's just I think this could be told differently. I don't think we need this part to have Tom Holland's character just meet them later, because that's all it was, is a meetup, essentially.
Right. Everything is incredibly contrived.
Yeah, it just feels like we have 5 different characters and they're gonna meet, but it's not done in a clever way like something like Pulp Fiction is, where I mean, in The Devil All the Time, you just have 5 characters and they meet just by kind of not flashy like, or not with any style, and they go away.
I mean, the whole serial killer thing is another plot device. Like, it's all a setup so that those two can meet.
So they can
it's
meet.
not like those two have separate stories to tell and then they just intertwine. It's like the specific purpose of those serial killings was so that Tom Holland could come across them in the end.
Yeah.
But like on a more, I guess, realistic level, I just didn't find the first of all, I think Jason Clarke is one of the most underrated actors working today.
He's very good.
He's a very good actor, and nobody talks about him. But I just didn't think that the serial killings were that convincing. It had like a sexual premise, but it just didn't. There was just no point to it, you know, like they like to murder guys in the woods.
Yeah, it felt, you know, when we were introduced to those 2 characters, it felt very out of left field as well.
Yeah,
we got introduced to them, and then it was like the next scene they were killing a dude, and I was like, where is this coming from? I didn't know this was gonna happen, which is whatever, but I just wanted a little bit of explanation.
Yeah,
as to
and it's never explained.
Yeah,
it's never explained.
Exactly.
Even,
go ahead.
you know, like serial killers in other movies, like they usually have some sort of vendetta against society, right? Like they have specific victims that they want to pick out, and they have their own like messed up reasons for doing it. These people is just like, we just like picking up young men as hitchhikers and then having sex with them and then murdering them. It's like, okay. Oh, also our protagonist happens to be a young man. like it's just like
hitchhiking.
I don't know.
Agreed. So where do we go from here? I guess we should talk about how did Tom Holland killing Robert Pattinson plus going on the run leading up to meeting Jason Clarke and Riley Keough work for you? Or was that again just more fluff to the already long movie?
Well, I think as you said before, if you showed like a snapshot of the film, maybe a scene or a frame, to me, I would say, yeah, that seems really well done. And that scene in particular was really well done. But in terms of the larger context of the story, it is kind of fluff. I mean, as we discussed before, Robert Pattinson's character essentially exists to be killed by Tom Holland's character. That's about it. But in the moment, in the scene, that was really, really incredible, especially from Pattinson's end.
Yeah, he was quite good.
He goes, you know, it would ruin me, man. It would ruin me. And like his like he's got like the like button shirt with like the fruffles in the front.
Yeah, he looked like a pirate.
Yeah, he looked like a pirate, and he's got that like Southern gentleman, like lanky kind of thing going on, and it was just, I know there's a lot of people criticizing Pattinson's performance because he didn't use a dialect coach, but I thought it was great. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, his character obviously dislikable, but I enjoyed what Robert Pattinson was doing.
Yeah. And did you read that the director didn't even know what his accent was going to sound like until they started shooting?
Really?
Yeah, he didn't tell anybody. He practiced it on his own.
Huh.
And he just showed up and started doing that. It's like,
alrighty. Hey,
yeah,
he can do what he wants, I guess.
Yeah.
I thought Holland's accent or his southern draw was all right too. Sometimes that southern draw can be way overemphasized and frankly bad. But I didn't think his was necessarily that bad.
Yeah.
So I guess good job, Tom Holland. I know a lot of people are speculating, is Tom Holland going to get like a supporting actor nomination for this? He won't.
No, definitely not.
No, he just won't. But yeah, it's hard to talk about this movie a ton because everything in this movie is good. It's just that it doesn't work, which is odd for me to say because that shouldn't be the case. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's like they collected a bunch of like gears, like a machine. They were building a machine, but the gears don't fit with each other. Like when the scenes come together, it just doesn't click.
Or it's almost like they gave 5 directors some money and were like, go make these stories right here.
Yes.
And then they made them. They came back together and were like, all right, how do we put them together? And then realized that it didn't really work because like 5 different people worked on it and we're not sure how these characters really intermingle. So let's just put them in this order and then call it good. Do you have any other? What else did you like about this movie? I suppose.
Women fame. She's kind of the Ringo Starr of those four little women because nobody had heard of her. But she's pretty good. The guilt that she kind of portrays after she carries Robert Pattinson's baby and ends up killing herself. That's really well done. Her grief is very realistic. Fantastic. Well, not fantastic, but well done. I thought, and I think that plot point of like, what is like one of the worst things you can do is have an illicit relationship with someone, child, and then manipulate them into essentially killing themselves. Like what a detestable thing, and what an excellent structure for a villain, right? I thought Robert Pattinson could have been an excellent villain if they gave him more time on screen. So yeah, I guess in that respect, it was well set up. It was, again, with this movie, everything's well set up. All the pieces are in place. It's just they put the puzzle pieces in the wrong places.
That's
yeah.
good.
Yeah, I think that's my main takeaway.
Yeah, I feel like we've been ranting about this movie a lot, but there's really quite a bit of good in here. It needed a little bit of work, just a little bit of work from someone who knows exactly what they're doing. I think the director, this is either their first or second movie ever. So,
yeah,
if this is a start to your career for the director, this is a good start. Like, this shows promise. I mean, it's not like, I don't think we have the next Coen brothers or Tarantino, but this is something. I could see someone building off this and doing something good.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I mean, it shows that he's capable of directing big stars. I mean, this is a relatively stacked cast. And he's at least, I mean, that's the other thing to mention. The narrative structure is could have been done better, but it is an interesting narrative structure.
Yeah, it is. I actually kind of liked it in that sense.
It's easy to follow, but it maintains enough mystery throughout so that you're kind of like, oh, what's going to happen next? Because I was genuinely engaged in the story throughout, even though the runtime was pretty lengthy.
That's a good point, because sometimes even short movies can lose me, or I can become uninterested. But I was interested in what was going to happen the entire runtime, so they did keep my attention. Yeah. I will say one thing we did not mention that I found brutally awful. Like, this is the only awful part in this movie to me, is the bad narration. I could not stand it when the narration would come up and tell me what was going to happen.
Yes.
Like, Tom Holland's about to go beat. Tom Holland's about to go beat some guys up, and the narration essentially goes, "Now Tom Holland's gonna go beat some guys up." And every time the narration came on, my eyes would just go wide, and I'd like rip my hair out. I was like, "Stop doing this right now! Stop it!"
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Oh,
I mean, I'm not saying this would completely redeem it at all, because I think narration as a general rule is bad.
It's not good.
But like, it would have helped a little bit if they at least explained who the damn narrator was.
I was waiting for that the whole time.
I'm like, who is the narrator? Who knows so much about this? Is it God? And if so, why didn't you save that poor woman from cancer, God? What the heck? Like, who is this person?
Yeah, every time the narration came on, I was like, nope, skip this part right now, please. It was painfully awful. And I would say that was the only really bad part about this movie. And that's such an easy fix, too, because every time there was narration, I was like, it's obvious what is going to happen right now. It's so obvious.
Right.
Yes, Tom Holland is going to go beat these guys up. Like, there was no point in me that was like, wait, slow down. What's happening here?
Thank you for explaining it to me. Narration.
It was pretty bad, which was upsetting, because it could have easily just been removed. Like, I don't know why it was even there in the first place.
Right. Sure. Yeah. But there wasn't enough of it so that it was overbearing. But yeah, it wasn't great.
But
bad choice.
Agreed. Bad choice. Do you have any final thoughts before we hit some star ratings?
I think that maybe we've ranted about it too much. I think that it's a fine movie. It's fine.
Yes, agreed. I think it is fine.
And I don't want to detract from that. I think I'm just particularly perturbed that there's such excellent performances in here, and it doesn't turn out how I want it to turn out. I think that's the source of my annoyance, perhaps.
Gotcha. Yeah. I think at the end of the day, there's a lot of good in here that just wasn't able to be great.
Yeah.
Because there's just enough things that didn't go right. Like, it's small things, really. And that's what I can't get over. It's the narration. It's the too many characters. It's a lot of plot devices. It's that kind of thing. But there is a lot of really good in here. I think the individual stories are all pretty good. It's just that they don't mix well. And
Yep.
You know, we've said it all, but I want to hear your star rating. Let's get to ratings.
Yeah, so I will give The Devil All the Time. I'll give it a high 2.5 stars out of 5. I calculated it right around 59%. I think it was like 0.596, which usually I do round up in that instance. I would round it up to 60, which would be a 3 star. but I decided, you know what? I don't think I can give this movie 3 stars. So I went with 2.5, a high 2.5 at that. And so it just verges on a recommendation. I would say I am about as neutral about recommending or not recommending this movie. Like, I literally have no opinion about whether or not you should. I'll put it that way. Like, let's
get that on the poster.
Yes, I have literally no opinion.
I don't do percents, but it would have been at around 60, 61. I've worked my way down to a high 50 again. So I'm as well I'm changing mine actually. I was coming in at a 3. I'm going 2.5 right now.
Okay.
It's like you said, like we've said. I'd probably tell people to watch this if you're a Tom Holland fan and you're like, I want to watch Tom Holland. He's in here. I'm not going to tell you to not watch this movie. I'm also not going to tell you to watch it.
Yes, exactly.
So that's look at those shining recommendations right there.
Make up your own minds, people. You gotta figure it out for yourself. Come on.
But with that being said, let's should we hit some recommendations?
Yeah, let's do that.
I'm kind of excited about this one too.
Yes. Yeah.
We were kind of talking just right before, and we were like, you know what? Let's do this. We're staying in the same genre.
Right.
But without further ado, let's hear yours first.
Yeah. So mine is we were just talking before the show. We were talking about how did this come up? We were talking about our old broadcasting class friends who are currently making a horror short film for some kind of national contest back at home. And we started talking about how short films are actually an excellent medium for horror because there's a lot that can be left mysterious. And I recommended to Will and all of you now a short film on YouTube by the name of I Heard It Too. And it came out 5 years ago. It's on a YouTube channel called Matt Sears, and the title of the video is actually I Heard It Too, award-winning short horror. Just look up I Heard It Too on YouTube. It should come up. It's the second one on mine here. And yeah, it's just a creepy about 7.5 minutes. Really well done, really terrifying. Check it out.
And that's TOO, correct?
Yes. Like I also heard it. Yeah.
All right, cool. I heard it too. I will definitely be checking that one out. So since Sam said he was going to do that, I thought, you know what? I am also going to recommend a short film, actually kind of a series of short films, also in the horror genre, where I guess we're getting ready for Halloween, I suppose. We're about a month early, but why not?
Sure.
I will be recommending, it's actually 10 short horror films, all about a minute apiece, so it's about 10 minutes.
Ooh.
Called Great Performers Horror Show. So Great Performers : Horror Show is the title. So yeah, I think there might be 9, although I'm pretty sure there's 10. Just individual horror films. Yeah, there are 10. One actor a piece. Some of them are very terrifying. Some of them aren't so. But it's oddly like very stacked with actors. You know, it's got Timothée Chalamet, Jake Gyllenhaal, Nicole Kidman, Daniel Kaluuya, Saoirse Ronan, Andy Serkis, and so on. All with their own about a minute horror, and it's pretty good. I'm not going to say it's the best, but it's a fun little watch, even though it is rather scary. Some of them mostly just disturbing, not really scary, but
right.
So Great Performers Horror Show. You can find them all on YouTube too, and they'll all be separate videos, but there will be some like a playlist almost.
They're like curated into a playlist. Yeah.
Yep.
Looks very interesting. So yeah.
Yeah, there you go. I don't know why we're into horror tonight, but there we go.
Well, I don't know how that happened. Because of the devil. The devil is all the time.
Exactly.
And he's
Way to tie it in there. That
Yeah.
was intended.
Yeah. So with that, then, we hope you all stay away from crucifying your dogs in the woods
you don't want that.
and scary predator pastors who with kind of Truman Capote-esque accents. We hope that you stay away from those.
Exactly. But with that being said, Sam, where can I find you on Letterboxd?
You can find me at sjdierberger, as always. And where can I find you, Will?
You can find me on Letterboxd at Will Spalding, and you can find us in the Deep South. I guess killing people, because that's all this movie was about.
That's all they do down there, apparently.
But if you're not living in the Deep South or into killing people, you can find us on all podcast platforms at Those Film Nerds and at Those Film Nerds on Instagram and at thosefilmnerds@gmail.com or anchor.fm/Those Film Nerds, where all of our episodes can be heard. But until next time, Sam.
Keep watching movies, everyone. Have a great week.
Thanks, everyone.